Hello Makeup Void, I'm Trin and welcome back to my channel. For today's video we are going to do a review and application of the new Hourglass ambient lighting palette. I did get the lightest shade. So I did recently go on vacation. This was my blush, bronzer, highlighter palette that I brought with me, so I have gotten quite a bit of use out of it and I have some thoughts. So we're going to apply it to my face. I can say I've done a wear test, and let's go ahead, like, subscribe, and get rolling. The first thing I want to talk about is a big reason why I bought this is the mirror. So this is a pretty big hefty mirror, but the thing is that it just lays flat. It doesn't have any strength to it to where you can like prop it up, which was really frustrating as I did my makeup because this was my mirror. So I had to have my water bottle propping it up, and even then it slipped a lot, so it was quite frustrating. So great size mirror, but in terms of like using it, wasn't the most functional. So for bronzer, I'm gonna use the Sigma Powder F10, the Powder Puff Blush, whatever, this brush, because it's quite small. Another complaint that people have with these palettes is that the brushes are, or the pans are pretty small, which you're getting 6 products with, so I'm not too like fussy about. But you'll see this is going to be the struggle. So at least in the lighting that I had, which wasn't very good, like unless you are very lucky or stay at a very bougie Airbnb, lighting is probably going to be really challenging. And I had to take that into consideration because I was frustrated. I'm not gonna lie, I was quite frustrated with this palette because I wasn't getting the pigment level that I wanted. I did bring cream blushes and bronzers for the trip, and at least by that lighting, you can, like, I had to have had those cream products. Like, there was no way. I'm very impressed how it looks in this lighting because we are getting some warmth, but in those not the greatest quality lightings, I was just building and building and building this product up. I could not get it to show up on my skin, but like getting back home using it, I have noticed that I've been able to see some sort of pigment onto my skin. So I have the bronzer pretty much at the level I want it. It was very hard for me to not use cream products today just because I love a little bit more oomph to it. I think this product really needs cream, or this face palette really needs cream products to make it stand out and shine a little bit more. But I can't deny that the powders are phenomenal. These powders are so good. So I'm going to start off with the more pigmented Coral Marbly blush, and I'm going to use the same brush that I bought it on vacation, and we're going to see why I'm frustrated. Do you see that? Do you see that? Maybe. Maybe. Do you see that? So if you like a sheer blush, this is your face palette. For me, this is nothing. Absolutely fluffy nothing. So this is an old Eco Tools brush that I brought. Not good. So I have this Beauty Pie dense blush brush, and I got it from my mother-in-law, probably from a Ipsy bag. So when I got home, I started using this brush, and I got a little bit more pigment out of it. A little bit more. But as you can tell, it is still not showing up. So let's go into the lighter pink shade. And let's try this. And see how it goes. But still, with a denser brush, I am missing that intense pigment. If you like a sheer blush, this palette is for you, but as somebody who likes heavy blush, this is just not doing it for me. It's just not. I mean, we're getting some pigment buildup now, Finally, but this is after going into the pan several times, and I am getting frustrated because I am so used to the NYX Buttermilk blushes. Okay, now we're seeing some blush, finally. I'm used to the NYX Buttermilk blushes. These are 0 to 100. You have to be very careful, very light fluffy brush with these. This product, you need a denser brush if you want some pigment. So that was a like, I was packing blush on vacation, and I just couldn't see it. So the wear time for these blushes, or for this palette, I think is abysmal because it just doesn't show up on the skin. It just doesn't. But we're getting a little bit of something. Let me go back into the coral blush on my cheekbones. Not that you can really tell anything. Not that you can really tell. So it's just a whole lot of nothing with these blushes. Just a whole lot of nothing. For highlight, the highlighter, it looks a little bit dark in the pan. I should have swatched these for y'all. We'll do swatches at the end. But the highlighter was the only thing in that poor Airbnb quality lighting that actually showed up on my skin. See? Look at that beautiful sheen. There is some micro glitter in it, but it's not that noticeable. Let me lean forward a little bit. Like, there is a smidge of it, but it's nowhere near noticeable on the skin. It just looks like this light, beautiful sheen. And it's phenomenal. It is absolutely freaking phenomenal. So this highlighter is probably my favorite product in the palette because it actually shows up. You can actually see something. And I'm actually going to use it as my inner corner highlighter today. So I'm going with a smaller brush. Some days I do inner corner highlights. I think today, because I did such a strong grungy look, that I just need a little bit of brightness in my inner corner. But not too much. And even on the inner corner, for it being a little bit dark, it's still showing up quite nicely. And it's not like taking away, it's not making my inner corner super dark. Like, you see that? Just that a little bit of something. Put it under the brow bone. This is, I think, a perfect inner corner highlighter. Now, something I meant to do with this palette and I forgot was to use the finishing powders to set my under eyes, and I just completely spaced on it. I just went in with Yellow Halo Glow. So my idea for the finishing powders, which when I've used like a NYX Buttermilk blush the past few days, is when you get too much, I find that the finishing powders are perfect for diffusing the product. So I'm going to go in with the lighter shade, the lighter diffusing powder, and I am going to just sort of smooth out my under eyes. And let's be honest, I'm not quite sure what finishing powders do. I don't really see the point of them. It's a confusing product to me. I'm so curious about them, but at the same time, I'm so confused. Like, what do I do with this? I have no idea. But what I will say is that also on the trip, I did notice a different when using the finishing powders. And what I liked about the finishing powders with a heavy blush was that it toned it down, but it didn't take anything away. It just sort of diffused, like, I would call them diffusing powders. They're nice diffusing. Do they blur? Yeah, but they just add this soft smoothness to the skin. But you can't tell the difference between the light and the dark one. You just can't. So I'm gonna go into the darker finishing powder, and I'm just gonna sort of like smush it over where the lack of blush was, so you can see how it sort of just like cleans up a heavy blush. So I do see some benefits to this palette with the finishing powders. It's like the highlight and the finishing powders for me that are the standouts, which is like weird because normally why would you think of a finishing powder being a standout, especially there's two. I don't think there's two necessarily, it needs to be two in the palette. I would have liked a more pigmented blush. That's what I would like out of this palette. So here is the application. I did not talk about shades. So the product number 1 is finishing powder in the shade Dreamlight. So here's that. I guess I'm going to swatch it on the back of my hand poorly. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take off my watch. So it does show up on the finger, but will it show up? I'm just going to swatch all of them. It does appear pretty light on my wrist, so that's good. I wish I did this under my eyes to make it more, to get more use out of it. That's the words. So the next top blush is the shade Peach Fusion. So there is a marble to it, but it does nothing. This is a pretty stiff product. So, like, can you see that? Can you see that at all? Not really. Not really. The next finishing powder is called Divine Light. Again, really smooth, a little bit darker than the other finishing powder. Is there some micro glitter in the finishing powders? Is there? I don't know why I'm trying to build it up. Don't know why. The next blush is called Mauve Haze, which is the more pigmented blush, which I expected the coral to be more pigmented, but still, as you can see, that doesn't really show up at all. And it'll show up on the swatch, but I'm using my finger, which is why we're getting the pigment. I'm not going to use a finger to apply powder blush on my skin. I'm going to use a brush. Let's be real. The bronzer is called Soft Bronze. I know that some of these products are new and some of the products are old. I cannot tell you which are which because I'm not too familiar with Hourglass complexion products. I'm not familiar with Hourglass in general. I do have their blush quad from, let's talk about the highlighter. It's Sunlit Strobe Light. I do have their Ghost blush quad from like 2019, which I absolutely love. And from memory, those blushes are so much more pigmented than what's in here. So much more pigmented. So, here are the swatches. Oh, I did them so poorly. So we have a finishing powder, we have a blush, we have another finishing powder. You can tell that the two finishing powders do look the tiniest bit different, but not so much. We have, so the Peach Coral blush, the mauve blush, the bronzer, and the highlighter. And look at that highlighter. It is so gorgeous. The highlighter is absolutely stunning. Finishing thoughts that you can kind of have been able to tell as I did this face application. I'm not a fan of this palette. Now, did I waste my money? Technically, I didn't, because I had been saving up my Ulta points all year to purchase this $90 face palette. All year. So, will I bring this palette with me on my next vacation? I don't know. I kind of want to swatch my blush quad because that is 5 years old. Oh my goodness. I do want to, I'm not going to do it for this video, but before I go on my next vacation, I'm going to swatch that blush quad and see if the pigment's still there, because I might just bring the 5-year-old blush quad with me instead of this palette. So before I went on vacation, I was cleaning up my office, like everyone does. You do a mass power frantic cleaning before you go on vacation. I did throw away the box to this palette. If I had not threw out the box to this palette, I would be returning it. I said what I said. I think it is a beautiful formula. I think that they are smooth. I really like the finishing powders, and the highlighter. But that's only half the palette. And for $90, I'm just going to do my list for a thumbnail. For $90, if I had purchased this with anything other than Ulta points, I would be so thoroughly disappointed. So incredibly incredibly disappointed with my purchase. There's just no way, no how about it. It just wouldn't be good, y'all. I would say skip it. Just skip on this product. I don't think it's worth it. I'm so disappointed with it. Yeah, just not a fan of it whatsoever. So I want to thank y'all so much for watching today's video as I apply my lip products, NYX Natural and the Merit lip oil in the shade Taupe, which isn't a taupe at all. It's like a creamy chocolate brown, but whatever. So thank y'all so much. Like, subscribe, stay tuned for more palette content, stay tuned for whatever the fluff I do on my channel next, because I fly by the seat of my pants. As always, have joy and bye!